Hey, what's up, y'all? Soldier Knows Best here. So look, I'm doing a camera comparison with the iPhone 13 Pro and the new hotness, the Google Pixel 6 Pro. So I'm out in Puerto Rico right now, so that's why I'm all sweaty and stuff. It's a little humid. But anyway, this camera comparison is going to cover the photos, the videos, and the front-facing cameras and the rear-facing cameras. And this video that you're watching right now is being shot with the front-facing camera from the two phones here. So with the iPhone 13 Pro, it can record 4K at 60 frames per second with the front camera. But with the Google Pixel 6 Pro, it can only do 4K at 30 frames per second. So you lose a little bit of flexibility there with that. And I'm also using this speech enhancement feature on the Pixel 6 Pro, which is supposed to cut down on background noises and wind and stuff. So right now the audio is coming from the Pixel 6 Pro, but I'm about to switch over to the iPhone 13 Pro right now. And this is the audio coming from the built-in microphones. So yeah, this quick intro here is just kind of the warm up here for our camera comparison. Let's go ahead and get to the rest of the stuff right now. And I am sweating like crazy. Okay, so let's kick things off with the main wide angle camera on the back of these phones. So you have 12 megapixels with the 13 Pro and 50 megapixels with the 6 Pro. But just looking at the pictures, I actually like what I'm seeing from both of them. I think the colors look pretty good. There's not a big difference between the colors on this one, but one thing you will see kind of consistent with this comparison is that on the Pixel 6 Pro's pictures, you will see that it does lift the shadows up a little bit more, and that high dynamic range really kicks in a lot more to bring up some of those details in those dark areas versus on the iPhone 13 Pro. But honestly, I'm liking what I really see from both of these pictures. Now moving on here, when we get to this particular photo, those same kind of sentiments remains the same here. But again, with the Pixel 6 Pro, when you look underneath the roof of that building on that overhang there, you will see that it lifted up a lot of those shadows and you see more details around the windows. Now for this photo, I will say that the greens and the plants and the trees in the background, I like the way they look on the iPhone 13 Pro a little bit better than I do on the 6 Pro. And also on the iPhone's pictures, you see that the sky is a little bit bluer in this particular comparison. But one thing I want to focus on between these two photos is that extra megapixel count on the Pixel 6 Pro, and how I really don't feel that it's really like adding anything to this particular photo, especially when I crop in here. I think I cropped in maybe around like 300% or so. And I just really like the photo coming on the iPhone 13 Pros. I think the colors look a little bit better. I think it's a little bit less grainier and less noisier. And I think that this is partly due to the processing that Google does on their photos with the pixels, where it might take away from the advantage of having those extra megapixels. All right. So what we have here next, okay. So we have some nighttime photos here that I took with both phones, and I didn't add any flash or anything extra. This is just me going full dark night mode here. But you can see here that I actually like that the iPhone 13 Pro does have a brighter image just straight out of the phone with no extra stuff on it, which I like. But when we do turn on night mode for the iPhone and night sight for the Pixel, I think the Pixel, just like earlier, does brighten up the shadows a little bit more. And when you are using these type of night modes, you want to see that extra detail where the Pixel does bring that into play, and you don't get that with the iPhone. But what I do feel that is the iPhone 13's photo is a little bit sharper in areas. There are some areas where the Pixel 6 Pro is sharper, but I feel in general that the iPhone picture does look a little bit sharper, and also too, the colors are a little bit more saturated than what you get on the Pixel photos, which is kind of an alternative twist than what we see with some of the other photos. But generally, I think both of them do a great job. But I think the Pixel 6 Pro here definitely gives you just that more detail at night. Now, one of the most talked about features this year of the iPhone 13 Pro is its macro mode that automatically kicks into play when you get closer to a subject. And so on the Pixel 6 Pro, you can use the telephoto camera to get up and close and personal, but it's not as seamless and also as effective as the macro mode on the iPhone 13 Pros, which is using this ultra wide camera to achieve this effect. And I find that this does allow you to take some really interesting photos, and with the Pixel 6 Pro, it just doesn't have that type of full capability. But the story is a little bit different on the Pixel 6 Pro when it comes to its portrait mode, because this does allow you to get a lot closer to an object, to be able to take a a photo in portrait mode, where on the iPhone 13 Pro, you can see here that it's telling me, hey, you need to back up a little bit because it doesn't really like you getting up close and personal. So I do like being able to have the flexibility of doing that in portrait mode on the Pixel 6 Pros. But just in general with portrait mode photos, both of these are two of the best on the market, and I really like them for different reasons, but there are some differences here. So when you do look at my skin tone on the Pixel 6 Pros, I personally like this. It makes my glowing skin look even better. So my skincare routine is working. Actually, I don't have one of those, but yeah, I really like the way that looks versus on the iPhone 13 Pros, where I think it's just a little bit too dark. And this is one of the things that Google has been working on with these Pixel phones, and it's called Real Tone, and this is going to help people of color in different skin tones be able to look a lot better and have the camera systems really kind of showcase the skin off a lot better than it has in the past. But there is one advantage that the iPhone does have over the Pixel, and that is the ability to cut the subject out from the background better. And that's because the iPhone 13 Pro does have a LiDAR scanner inside of it, so that's going to be able to do a better job at finding those subjects and being able to get that really nice crispy outline. And you can see here as I zoom in here on the top of my head here where the Pixel is a little bit blurry, right? It's having a hard time separating my dark hair from that, maybe that dark shadows above me in the photo. So yeah, when it comes to just overall cutting me out, the iPhone does a better job. But if you are a fan of taking group selfies and you want to get more people in the shot, I do like the fact that the Pixel 6 Pro does have that option in the camera app to allow you to zoom out a little bit to get more people in there, or you can just have more of the background in there if you are taking a solo selfie. All right, so now let's go into full creeper mode here and talk about the telephoto cameras. So this first test, I'm doing a maximum zoom test here. So you have a maximum of 15 times zoom on the iPhone 13 Pro and 20 times zoom on the Pixel. And both of these are using a combination of optical and digital zoom. And when you go in this close, you're gonna be losing quality, but I feel that the Pixel 6 Pro has done a better job at retaining more of that quality than on the iPhone. And I especially do love how it's a little bit brighter of an image too. Now, part of the reason why that maximum zoom test favored the Pixel 6 Pro is that it does have a higher optical zoom rate, coming in at 4 times versus 3 times on the iPhone. Now, my knees don't like me getting this low anymore, but I sacrificed them for this video, so you're welcome. But yeah, so I'm testing out the ultra wide cameras on both of these phones, and I like to get this low because I really wanted to see how the foreground looked. And you can see here on the Pixel 6 Pro, it really did a good job at blurring out that foreground, making that really nice and blurry, and then focusing that stuff in the background, where on the iPhone 13 Pros, it looks like most of the stuff is kind of in focus there, which it looks good, but I like more of this DSLR type of look that the 6 Pro does give me. But I will say that the colors on the iPhone 13 Pros do feel more vibrant, and me walking around Puerto Rico here, that definitely was the vibe, and I like that. I like them adding a little bit more punchiness to this photo, but on the 6 Pro, it's a little bit more of a muted approach, and of course we have those shadows being lifted up more. So this one is going to be a little bit more of your personal preference, but just how it handles the foreground and the background, I like what I'm seeing on the 6 Pro. Now for this last ultra wide shot here, what I want you to do is to start from the bottom of the photos and just work your way up slowly but surely. And you can see that both photos do look good, but when you get to the very top, you will notice a difference there, especially on the iPhone, where the sun is causing this type of like blooming effect when it hits the camera lenses here. And you can see it's kind of glowing up in the sky, where on the Pixel 6 Pro, the sky looks very even at the top, and it's just more uniform with the rest of the sky in the photo. All right, y'all, so now let's switch over from the photos and go to the video side of things. So both of these videos were originally recorded at 4K 60p, but I'm showing you them running at 4K 30p right now. And we kind of have the opposite of what we saw with the photos. So on the Pixel 6 Pro, we see those shadows don't really get lifted up as much as they do on the iPhone 13's Pro video. And so that's in part due to that Dolby Vision video recording that you have on that iPhone. And that HDR just really is really excellent with video recording on iPhones these days, where on the Pixel 6 Pro, it kind of went more for the punchiness and having more of a vibrant looking video. But I just find that even in this little test right here, where I'm just showing you the auto exposure, how I feel it is a little bit smoother on the iPhone 13 Pro. You know, the iPhone just went for a more cleaner image and lifting up those shadows. And you can see here in the details in the sand, you just see a lot more of those fine details on the video coming from the iPhone. Now, I will say that just the regular stabilization on both of these phones is pretty excellent. So I'm not gonna get into the technical details, but I think they both do a good job at me being handheld right now and just rotating around this flag. But you will see in the background in the sky that the iPhone 13 Pro's sky is a little bit better balanced. It's not overexposed like you find on the Pixel 6 Pros. And also the color of that flag is more accurate to what I saw in real life. And here's another test of the built-in stabilization combination of these phones, but just pay attention to that ocean to the left-hand side and also to the sky on the right-hand side there. You can see the differences between these two phones. And for this test, I just wanted to kind of see how the autofocus was in this really little tight, little narrow window right here. And you can see here on the 6 Pro did a really good job at making that transition, where on the iPhone 13 Pro, I did have to do a little tap to focus as you just saw there. Now for this telephoto video example here, you will notice that on the iPhone, it seems a little bit closer, right? Well, that's because that 3x optical zoom is still able to record at 4K 60, but on the Pixel 6 Pro, you can only do 4K 60 with the telephoto camera up to 2x optical zoom and not the 4x maximum. So if you want to record video with that maximum 4x telephoto camera on the Pixel 6 Pro, you have to bump down the resolution to only 4K at 30 frames per second. And that's also the maximum resolution of the ultra wide camera on the Pixel 6 Pro, where on the iPhone 13 Pro, you don't have to worry about any of that. It can do 4K 60 on all three of the cameras on the back and also the front facing camera. But all right, so now let's get into some of the extras that both of these camera systems can do. So on the Pixel 6 Pro, it has some extra stabilization options like this lock mode, which is great for if you want to be locked in like on this little structure back there, and no matter how you move, you want that to be kind of the center of focus, it can do that. But also you can activate this active mode for stabilization, where if you're running and jumping up and down or on a bicycle or something, it's going to do a pretty decent job at keeping the video steady. It's not perfect, but you can see how much I'm moving the phone up and down there. It does a great job. And then also you have this cinematic pan, which is going to allow you to be able to do a nice little panning shot, almost like if you were on a tripod and you had the, the camera mounted on there, and you can get this very nice cinematic look there. But speaking of cinematics here, the iPhone 13 Pro does have this new cinematic mode this year. And so this allows you to be able to switch focus between different subjects in a very smooth transition. So it really feels like you're using like a Hollywood camera or something, right? And then back on the Pixel 6 Pro here, it does have a couple of new software options this year. And one of those is called Action Pan, which if you're like trying to capture somebody running like this example here, you can press the shutter button right when they get into the middle of the frame here. You can see it's gonna blur out that background and make it look like I'm running a lot faster than what I am. But the most popular feature this year of the new Pixel phones here is called Magic Eraser. So after you take a photo, it can automatically identify certain objects that you might want to remove. So if I do want to take out these people, you can do that. So if you have some haters in your photos, you can remove those haters from your life using this feature. But also too, I'm removing this power line as well. And you can also just move your finger and actually brush or erase it manually if you don't want to just go with the suggestions from the phone itself. But man, look, it just does an excellent job at removing unwanted things from your photos. And I can't wait to really kind of play around with this a little bit more. But another new feature on the iPhone that might not be as kind of cool as Magic Eraser, but it's called Photographic Styles. And so this basically allows you to adjust the way your photos look by adjusting the contrast or the warmth and just different things like that. But you can bake that into the camera app. So now every photo that you take will automatically have those certain type of settings. All right, y'all. So look, we're at the end here, and I think we have the same kind of result as we did last year with like the Pixel 5 versus the iPhone 12 Pro. And that is with the iPhone, it's still the king when it comes to video, but personally, I like the way the photos look coming out of the Pixel phones. But I will say that both phones this year did a better job at kind of like getting better at the strengths of the other one, right? But I will say that I feel that the iPhone 13 Pro made a bigger jump up in the photo department than the Pixel 6 Pro did in the video department this year. But a lot of this is going to be your personal taste, right? So this is kind of like my personal opinion. I like the way the photos look coming out of the Pixel phones, but I definitely like the way the video looks coming out of the iPhone. But what do you think? So this is where I want you to leave that comment down below and let me know overall which phone that you think you would prefer yourself. So leave that comment down below, and also be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. But like always, I do want to thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you later. Peace.